We're going to do, it's almost like a lightning panel. We've got only about 30 minutes, so I'm going to allow each of the administrative officers to do a self-introduction, high level, a little bit about the county, what are sort of the top issues and things that are trending that they want us to know about. As I mentioned earlier, it was like really historic. I'm really excited to be joined by Sonia de la Rosa, who is the first Latina CAO in the county of Monterey. She's also coming back to the region. This is home region for her. She's originally from Monterey County, so this is really awesome. She's been here roughly a year. Carlos Palacios to my left, on the other side, left to her, same thing, the first Latino leader in the county's 168-year history. That's really something to be proud of, and he's done some amazing work, originally in Watsonville as a city manager, then off to the CAO's office, and then of course Ray Espinosa at the county of San Benito since 2012 in various capacities, but largely as a CAO. There's a lot of intersecting commonalities, as I'm sure you know, in our economic ecosystem across the three counties, but I will allow them to sort of talk about that through their lens. And all three, we are really excited at MBEP to enjoy a close relationship, because without working closely with the counties, it would be difficult to do the work that we have to do and advocate for on the county side, and of course when we are up in Sacramento. So again, thank you for being here. And we'll start with Sonia.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having us today. We actually have a very good relationship between the three of us here in this Tri-County area, and it is our honor to represent the folks from our different counties and to be able to work together to try to address issues that we have in common. We promise that we will not be repetitive, so we're going to ping pong off of each other as we go through in the hopes to not be too repetitive. As Tara said, I did grow up in King City, and graduated a Mustang, and then went over to Fresno and became a Bulldog, and was there for 30 years. I worked for 24 of those years with the county of Fresno. Much of my work towards the end of my time at Fresno County was with our homeless population and our social service and our behavioral health team. Again, many of the issues that we were focused on in Fresno County translate to this area as well. A highly rural county, and also housing crisis and different needs, where there's a lot of intersection between all of our counties, but also between our communities and our businesses. So having grown up in this county, two farm working parents, and being a farm worker myself, I could tell you that one of the things that we are very great at in this county is that we have a great workforce in every industry that we have that cares about our community, loves living here, loves thriving here, but is also having a great deal of difficulties because of obviously the housing crisis, the economic crisis, and a range of issues, including learning to live after having gone through COVID, and the changes in our workforce, including the remote work that we currently do. So part of my, what I consider a goal is really to try to bring all of our entities together and to work in partnership. And I open the door to every industry that is interested in partnering with Monterey County. I think we do a lot of great work. We just have to do a better job of telling you what we're doing and how we could partner with you. So with that, I will turn it over to my friends here.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate being here with you this morning. Once again, I'm Carlos Palacios. I was the city manager in Watsonville for 2 decades, and I've been with the county now, Santa Cruz County, 9 years. Counties are interesting in that we are both cities and county government, both. We are city municipal service entities for half of our population in Santa Cruz. So for half of the population of Santa Cruz, they look to us for city services, but then we also provide countywide safety net and other criminal justice and other services for everybody in the county. The biggest issues that are coming our way, and they're 2 big issues. First of all, our housing elements have all been, we just got ours approved in Santa Cruz County. We just got a certified housing element. It's pretty amazing because it's very ambitious, over 4,600 units in our county, just in the unincorporated area. And the cities of Santa Cruz, Watsonville, and other cities are also have very ambitious housing element goals. This is really historic. I don't know if people really understand it. You know, 90% of the housing stock in Santa Cruz County was built 30 years ago, and then basically for the last 30 years, nothing was built. And now you're going to see a tremendous amount of growth, tremendous amount of housing, infill housing, denser housing. It's a good thing. We need that. It's the most important thing we can do in terms of economic development. But the question is, how can we do it right in quality, maintaining the quality of living in our communities? And then the second issue is, how do we get the infrastructure for all of those housing units that we're going to be building, the parks and the water and the sewer and the streets and all that? And so that's a challenge that we really are going to face going forward. All of us are going to face. So housing is most important issue we're going to be facing in the next decade. The second issue is climate change. Climate change is happening. In the last 6 years, we've had 7 federally declared natural disasters. 7 natural disasters federally declared in 6 years. In the 80s and 90s, we used to have one a decade. We're having now one every year. And it is basically devastating our infrastructure, our roads, our storm drains, water, sewer, everything. It's devastating them. And at this point, the federal government through FEMA is still acting like it's 1970, and their processes are still 1970. 2023, we had a devastating storm in Santa Cruz County, 2 devastating huge storms, over 100 different incidents in terms of roads, bridges washed out. We spent $90 million to respond to that emergency in 2023. 18 months have passed. FEMA has not even picked up one of those applications. They haven't even looked at them. 18 months, we've been waiting for $90 million. Where's FEMA? They come and they say, we're going to help you, but we're having a problem. So that's, anyway, the natural disasters because of climate change is very big and going to be a big challenge for us going forward as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me today. My name is Ray Espinoza. I'm the CAO for the County of San Benito. I've been in this capacity since 2012. My background originally is technology. I worked at IBM for many years, as well as other areas in the tech field. So I've changed gears. As mentioned earlier, you know, the excitement of public administration, changing career, and that's what I did in 2012. So it's been exciting. There's a lot going on in our county. First of all, I want to share that our county is really a gem. I know Monterey County and Santa Cruz, you know, you got the water, but internally within the inland area, we have a lot going on in our county. So we encourage you to visit and to look at our county. We have the Pinnacles National Park, the Hollister Hills. We have a tremendous amount of ag production going on in our community. My favorite are the cherries and apricots when the season comes up. So I just encourage you. It's a great place to raise families. We have great high school. We have Gavilan College that is expanding into our county. So there's a lot of opportunity occurring. And I'm not sure if any of you are familiar, but we're ranked first out of the 12 Bay Area counties with percentage of assessed value growth. First. Who's part of that region? Monterey, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara County, Marin, and other counties. We're ranked first, so we are growing. But that brings a whole other set of challenges, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But as I mentioned, it's just that growth. Moving forward, we're addressing our arena numbers. We've been working diligently on that. And, you know, with an adult living complex coming in at the San Juan Oaks area, it's a new golf course. Well, it's not new, it's Freddie Couples Course. It's been revamped. We have about 1,100 adult homes coming in there. We're working closely with individuals to address farm labor housing and low-income housing, about 100 homes coming in. So we're projecting to reach our numbers. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of growth. Unfortunately, the 2 arterial roads that we have are just 2-way. It's one way going in, one way going out. So we are dealing with the infrastructure problems, and it is a definite challenge. 156 is being redone right now. Hopefully we'll get that done in the next couple of years. And 25, Highway 25, we have some more work to do with that, about 6 to 8 years out. So there's a lot of work going on, but we have to address the infrastructure. So.
That said, so speaking about infrastructure, of course, our region, there's a lot of challenges, right? There's income inequality, what definition of good jobs, family-sustaining jobs, and, Carlos also highlighted the climate. How do you address infrastructure? How can, I think even folks in the audience, we've got a wide sort of spectrum of diverse stakeholders. How can business and community and others, what do we need to know better to be better advocates and partners with you? Yeah.
One of the great services that we have in our county is that we have an economic development individual, and he is with us today. It's Richard Vaughn. And get to know Richard if you are a business in this community. By sharing information with us about a potential business growth that may occur, that helps us prepare as well and speak to our public works team, speak to our community and housing development team, different teams within our county to prepare for what you're going to need in terms of infrastructure, but also for us to be able to place that infrastructure in place for the community to also be able to travel in those areas. We've done that quite a bit when there's been discussion about potential businesses coming in to our communities, whether it's within a specific city or in the unincorporated area, and that really helps with the flow of traffic, but also with the discussions about the schools and potential impacts that are beyond just the business coming into our community. But also there's a lot of questions that are raised by the community, and they're coming to us and saying, what's the impact of this? What does it mean to my route to work? What does it mean for different resources that I need to access in that specific area? What changes are going to happen? And as we've gone through the emergencies, not having access to specific infrastructure, specific roads, because they've been impacted, really shows you very quickly how vital it is to ensure that we as a county and our partners in the cities have adequate roads for folks to be able to travel, because otherwise traffic is redirected naturally. We will find a way to get to work. We will find a way to get our kids to school, but that means we're impacting neighborhoods by doing that. So the better prepared we are, then that gives us an opportunity to respond, but also be able to partner with you to address any community issues that might arise.
So in the last 6 years, we have, as a county, spent $250 million in emergency response, most of it in roads, bridges, storm drains, things like that. That is being done through the private sector. That work is not being done by county employees. We are bidding it out. We are getting private sector firms to do that work. We are at a point, though, where we can't maintain that level of spending without getting reimbursed from the federal government, which that's how it works, right? The emergency response is that you spend the money, get the project done, the federal government reimburses you for that. Not all of it, about 80% of those costs. Federal government's not being able to keep up. So there's a couple things that need to happen. Number one, there needs to be reform of FEMA at the federal level. FEMA is just overwhelmed nationally. You only need to look at the national news and see all the disasters happening across the country. FEMA doesn't have enough staff. They don't have enough resources. They need to be reformed. They need more resources to be able to help local governments. The second thing is Cal OES, which is the California Office of Emergency Services, also needs to help in terms of giving us cash advances for these projects. We're at the point now where we're not able to respond to any further emergencies. We don't have the cash. We're going to issue a bond, the largest bond in the county's history, of almost $90 million in the next couple weeks, just to maintain our cash flow, because we're still waiting from 2017 to get reimbursed for all this $250 million we spent. So when new emergencies happen, we're not able to respond. That's a very precarious position to be in as a government, because those roads are obviously relied upon, the bridges, all of that is relied upon. So there are answers. One's federal reform of FEMA. Second is Cal OES needs to have a much more robust advanced program of how they can advance funds. They do have a program right now, it's just not robust enough. And so if we do those things, then we can keep responding. We're very good at responding to emergencies. We've gotten very good at it. You would be amazed at the number of projects we've completed in the last 6 years. But we have to have the resources to do that.
I would have to say, to add to that, maybe a little different point of view, is our county, we receive about 11 cents on the dollar, while education receives about 68 cents on the dollar. We're one of the lowest with regards to what we actually receive financially, money coming into the county for general fund services. And that includes our mileage, our 450 miles of roads that we have. General fund covers that. We're fortunate enough to have passed Measure G in our community of self-help, where we're receiving funding to offset some of that. But we are putting a lot of general fund money to our roads, millions of dollars, as well as SB1 and other sources of funding. So for us, you know, we spend a lot of money. We'll put millions of dollars into the roads, and then the floods come and just wash those roads out, wash the potholes out, and it's just a never-ending cycle, especially with the significance of the storms as of late. So, you know, I just wanted to highlight that. I think it's really important for the folks here to understand we really don't receive a lot of funding outside of subvention funds and other types of funding. I would say, to answer your question and be a little bit more specific to your question, I think leveraging our new leadership, Speaker Rivas, and having us as a region advocate for us to address these matters. We need support, and having, you know, our Congress folks as well be a part of that, I think is really important, because we are going to them, we are advocating, but the more that they hear from other folks, I think will also help them to provide better infrastructure in our region, in our community.
You know, I was just thinking, you know, John had a slide up there about how we dislike Congress, but we love our local elected leaders or those who represent us, whether state or federal. And, you know, I'm a student of public policy and politics, and I follow some of this data where, you know, public distrust of government and government entities is at an all-time high. So I'm just sort of curious, like, where you sit as is technically the CEO of a county. You've got also lots of cities under, and there's also unincorporated areas. How do you bridge that divide? Like, what are you doing, or how can others help, or what do you think we need to know as leaders in this room? Because distrust, it makes it challenging to have a regional solution making and innovation when there is distrust. And so just to maybe highlight a couple of bullet points there before we pivot, I'd be curious to know your thoughts. I don't know if we start with Ray and work our way back.
Sure. You know, coming from the private sector and then going into government and then being in the COVID era, it was tremendous. A lot of people were upset, saying a lot of things from the podiums, and it was very difficult. And what I've noticed as a CIO is that there's a lot of misconception, or individuals in the community don't really have an understanding of what we do. And, or it's very one-dimensional in their thinking. Say, why don't we spend this library grant or these funds for roads or infrastructure or other things? That's very general, but there's a lot of other things that just don't understand. And so for us, what we've done, we're addressing a hospital, potential hospital, well, bankruptcy and potential closure. What we've done is we've done some town halls. We're reaching out. We're doing a better job with our public information officer on outreach. And for us, we actually have a 2-year plan to go out and communicate with the public, sit down with the public, explain to them financially how funding works, and what we can spend on roads, what can we spend on infrastructure, as well as social services, safety, and other things that we manage. And I think that will help a lot, because when we'll sit down with them, or I sit down with individuals from the public after a meeting, I'll explain to them, like, oh, I didn't know that. And so I think there's just that lack of understanding, and on our part, we need to do a better job in communicating.
Yeah, I would say that the most important thing we can do in local government to engender trust is to be effective, to get things done. That's what people want, right? They want services and they want us to get them done. And I think at the local level, we actually do have quite a bit of trust. We've done a number of revenue measures in Santa Cruz County, and they've passed. And they passed because we've been able to deliver. I'll just give you an example. We passed a library tax a number of years ago, and we have 10 brand new libraries right now. We have our main library that we're still under construction, but every other library is either brand new or completely renovated. I was just in a meeting yesterday in one. The public, those 10 libraries, they go to those and they see them and they see that, hey, I paid a tax and it happened, and this is beautiful, and I could take my kids here. The other thing we did that I'm very proud of, Ray talked about their hospital situation. I'm very proud that we led the effort, Santa Cruz County, to save Watsonville Hospital. Watsonville Hospital declared bankruptcy more than a year ago, if you might remember, and was owned by a private entity. We worked with our state legislators, especially Speaker Rivas and Senator Laird, to form a healthcare district, and we raised $68 million in 6 months from private sources and some state money to save it. And then we just passed a parcel tax that's going to help fund that hospital district. And I think that we were able to convince people how important that hospital was to the entire health structure of our county, and actually regionally. If Watsonville Hospital had actually closed and that emergency room had actually closed, it would have been devastating for the Santa Cruz community, but also for Salinas. It would have had a huge impact. So when people see that in government, you're being effective, you're getting things done, that's when they will trust you. So that's what we're trying to do. All of us try and get stuff done.
So having gone through multiple emergencies along with both Santa Cruz and San Benito County, but also many of the counties in our state, that is an opportunity for community engagement. Unfortunately, I think there's segments of our community that, due to a language barrier or speech issue or some other element, right, work, they're not being engaged as much. We're not doing a very good job at reaching out to them and sharing the information. All of these things come to a head during an emergency. Who received the alert, who actually knew what was happening, and who found out the moment that the person showed up, the law enforcement showed up at their door and was knocking and telling them they had to leave now. We've had continued engagement with our different communities. A lot of frustration has been expressed. In 2022, right before I came to this county, or back to Monterey County, I was at a meeting with Eastern District judges, and these are federal judges that were also talking about how there is a lack of trust in our communities, not just in the state level, we're talking nationally. Every community has a distrust. I think in the last 10, 15 years, and technology has increased significantly. Your phone looks a lot different than it looked in 2008. I had a Razr in 2008, just so you know, those little flip phones. We have iPhones, Androids, et cetera. The rate at which we're able to get information, and unfortunately, sometimes that information is not accurate, but it's out there. And so folks are reading it, they have certain expectations. Their world crumbles and they want government to step in and find the solution. And the reality is that government's not built to be able to respond at that great scale. It involves our entire community. But when we as county officials are the ones that are in front of our communities having these engagement meetings, and they're mad at the state government or national government, they blame local government. And I don't know so much that it's a blame. We're talking to them, so they're going to give us the information. And I think having better ways of sharing information with folks, ensuring we have people that are able to translate, ensuring that we have folks that are doing translation through American Sign Language. Those are things that we could change now in the form that we communicate with our own communities. In the County of Monterey, and I know with our partners as well, we have a large amount of indigenous population that doesn't have a written language. So we have to communicate to them in a different way, through meetings like this, through videos instead of documents and flyers, through having people going door to door and giving them that information. And there is going to be frustration. When we went through the floods, many people that had never been engaged were all of a sudden engaged, and they were engaged in an evacuation shelter. And they didn't know the language, they didn't know where to go, they weren't getting the food that they were used to getting at home, that they were used to making at home. They couldn't do certain things on their own, and they were having to rely on the government to do that. But we were asking them to abide to certain rules. And so just to get, kind of explain the magnitude of what we went through in Pájaro, there were 3,000 people that were relocated and evacuated from that area. 75% of them are renters, and they don't have a place to go to. Many of them went to our neighboring counties, and so getting information out to them has been a challenge, but we've adapted by working with Centro Binacional, by working with other organizations that speak the language and are able to communicate and are also trusted individuals in those communities. That's how we're going to address the trust issue. And are we going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But I think part of it is to make sure that engagement continues. We're not perfect. It's going to look different in every county, and some things are going to look very similar. And I could tell you, we partner with our regional folks, but we also partner with counties across the state. Merced County went through a very similar incident, and we were lockstep in terms of how we were addressing, because receiving $20 million for a small community that had never received that amount of dollars was quite a lift for us. And so now we're going through these different processes, and it is truly continued engagement in the language and in a way that they understand, and it's consistent and constant because they're testing us. What happens when this all quiets down? Are you still going to be there? And so that's how we address the trust.
Thank you for that. As we wrap up, what are you really excited about? What is an amazing thing happening in your county you wish we all knew before we left today? Or maybe you want to share something in your tenure that you've been able to accomplish. So in the last 2 minutes we have, we'll go back with Sonia, you first. What are you excited about? What is something maybe we don't know that's happening in the county?
I think one of the greatest things that's happening in our county is, again, back to the information. There's so much information being shared. There are so many young people in our communities that are so hungry to do something. Do something about climate change, do something about our health, do something about how we all come together. I think that is perhaps the most exciting thing, and to be able to actually just listen to them. If you ask a 5-year-old, how to save the world, he'll tell you how to do it. And, and there's nothing stopping him to be able to do it, but we don't think like that, right? So if we listen to our young folks, they have so many solutions that most of us have never even thought of. I mean, some of them, yeah, it's a Superman coming in and saving the day type of thing, but the reality is some of those nuggets that they give us are planting the seed for how they're going to lead in the future. So I think one of the greatest things that we're doing is that we are engaging with our community, and many of these young folks are coming back to us and telling us that they're interested, they want to make a difference. And it's great to hear that from our young folks, because I think we went through a lull where people were not really wanting to get involved and expand in that way. And it's coming full circle where we're getting there again. And that's probably what excites me the most, to be back here and to have grown up in this community, and for them to see that somebody from this community can go somewhere else and come back and give back. So that's what I hope I'm bringing, is that people that are 16, 17, 18 years old right now, regardless of where they go in the nation, eventually find home again, as I did.
Thank you, Sonia. We're happy to have you back. Welcome back. Carlos, what are you excited about? What's happening that we don't know about?
I'll mention a couple things. One is something that's very visible, which is that we are right now moving into the South County Government Center in Watsonville. So many of you may know that Santa Cruz City is the seat of county government in Santa Cruz. But over half of our population that receives services from the county resides in South County and Watsonville and the surrounding area, yet our facilities and our services have been historically lacking there. And I know that because I was city manager for Watsonville for 2 decades, and I live in Watsonville, and so I always thought it was inequitable. It was an example of inequity in action. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is to improve the facilities and services that we provide to Watsonville, and so we purchased the former West Marine building, 116,000 square feet. We've remodeled it. We're moving into it right now. We're going to have a grand opening in June. It's going to have consolidate 5 different other leases. So financially, it's actually going to be a benefit to the county, but we're also going to bring more services from Santa Cruz to Watsonville, so our employees don't have to do that drive as much, and then the residents don't have to do the drive as well. So anyway, I'm very excited, and in fact, this week, we're starting to move into it. Second thing I'll highlight is something that's not visible that you folks probably don't see unless you're in the field, and it's the work that I did to bring the Public Defender's Office into county government from a private contract. This is something that very few people, unless you're in county government, even realize we did. It was a huge organizational and political thing, but we did it, and we did it because we all want those who are involved in the criminal justice system to get out of the criminal justice system. That's one of the most important things we can do as a society. And to do that, we need to offer them counseling, social services, drug rehabilitation, mental health counseling, health services, so many things that we weren't doing before. And so now we have a public defender's office that I'm extremely proud of. They have social workers. They're doing housing navigation. They're helping people get health care, get job counseling. They're doing amazing work. And it's something that, again, that most people don't realize that we're doing, but we are doing it. And it's something that's happened in the last few years. And it's going to be a great thing, because when somebody commits a crime, gets involved in the criminal justice system, they can either get deeper into it and end up in prison, or get out of it and never interact with the criminal justice system again. And that has tremendous societal impacts. So anyway, we're doing that. I'm very proud of it. Heather Rogers is our public defender. She's an amazing person. I hope you get to hear her talk and about all the exciting things that we're doing in that area.
Thanks, Carlos. And bring it home, Ray.
Yeah, I know we're out of time here, but I will just say, as a collective with our board and our county, really I'm proud that we are all kind of on the same page of moving forth with a safe, healthy community, a vibrant community. And our board has taken action, has allocated millions of dollars to save our hospital. They did file bankruptcy, and there's been real concerns having an economic issue within our county and even regionally. So our board we submitted a letter of intent to reorg the hospital, and so I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about the investment in a master park plan, a very large park in the middle of Hollister, and with trails from 101 all the way into the county area. So very exciting, and it's progressing. We have done a lot of other things, a new behavioral health building, which was very much needed for a healthy community. We've also built a rehabilitation center, and there's been a lot of things that's unseen, technology advancements and other things behind the scenes to really streamline services and have the ability to be agile and have the departments be able to work better together. So I'm excited about all the things we've done.
Well, Sonia, Carlos, Ray, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause.